So if you want to know something about a person, look at the percentage of time they spend doing something, or look at their bank account and look at the percentage of what they spend their money on.
Yeah.
And so if you are passionate about your pivot, if you're passionate about your next move, well, then
Mm-hmm.
how much time do you spend on exploring that thing, on taking on opportunities or experiences or assignments that expose you to that thing? And so I think that's what I did, and
Mm-hmm.
probably not overly consciously, right? It's what I knew to do. It's what I knew. The only way for me to know about this is to start doing it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. One of the things I love to do on this podcast is to introduce you to people I know and love who are amazing. And you get to hear from one of those people today. Her name is Felicia Cox. So, in this conversation, there are words of wisdom, strategies, ideas, inspiration for how to pivot to whatever it is God is calling you to. And her bio reads like a poem. Felicia is a child of God, a woman of faith and love, a woman of character and integrity, a woman who pours in and gives back, a woman who listens, understands, and cares, a woman who contributes thoughts and ideas, a wife, a mother and a daughter, a sister and a friend, a partner and a colleague, a leader and a mentor. Felicia has been married to her husband, Kevin Cox, for 21 years. They're dear friends of ours. They have three beautiful, talented, kind children, Asia, Kevin, and Christian. She was born and raised in Reserve, Louisiana, and has been residing in Texas for 20 years. She has her undergraduate degree in accounting from LSU, Louisiana State University, go Tigers. She also has an MBA with a concentration in human resources from the University of North Texas, go Eagles. She is also a senior certified HR professional, a realtor, and an investor. So Felicia loves to engage in thought-provoking dialogue. She thrives on challenging herself, me, those around her, which you'll hear in this conversation. And she just enjoys the intrigue and discovery of learning. And most importantly, she values her relationships with God, her family, and her friends. In this conversation, we're talking the art of the pivot with Felicia Cox. Pivoting is an art, but she also gives us a roadmap. This podcast has stats, strategy, laughter, tears. It literally has it all. So thank you all so much for joining. I love this conversation. You're going to fall in love with this conversation and with Felicia. So thank you for joining and enjoy. Welcome to Enelra. Have you ever thought about unlocking the full potential of yourself or the leaders in your organization? Imagine the impact of executive coaching. Ready to transform your leadership impact? Visit us at www.enelratalent.com. Enelra, coaching solutions that work. Felicia, thank you so much for joining. I am really looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely. Arlene, thank you so much for having me. I get excited when we get to spend some time together. And I just appreciate you. I appreciate your wisdom. I appreciate your willingness to share your brilliance with me. And I'm excited. I'm happy to be here. I'm just so grateful for you for inviting
Aw.
me. So thank you, sis.
Oh, thank you for coming. I cannot wait for this conversation. I know I love our coffee chats. It's like one of my favorite parts of any day that we have. And so I'm excited everyone else gets to hear what we talk about in those coffee chats in just a different format, a different conversation. And so I thought we'd start before we jump into just all the great things you've done and kind of pulling your lessons out. I thought I'd share just some career change, pivoting statistics to kind of talk about just how much this is happening. And I knew, like, as I talk to people, and I'm sure you do as well, that people are considering a lot of changes in their life at any one point in time. But honestly, when I looked at some of the stats, it's actually more than even I would have thought. So one stat I pulled, I like to pull a lot of stats from LinkedIn just because they have so much data and they're so good at compiling it. But one stat earlier this year said that 85% of people were considering job changes at that moment. So, basically most of us are thinking about some kind of job change. It also said that 68% of the job titles being advertised didn't exist 20 years ago. And if you think about, like, if I think about just how AI is changing every industry, every job, this idea of you having to learn something new, figure new things out is just a part of work today for sure. And then as of this year, about a third of people had a side hustle of some kind. And they distinguished side hustles from like a second job in that it was something where you had more flexibility. Maybe you were an
Mhm.
independent contractor starting your own business, selling something, but it wasn't like, you had another job. Fewer
Right.
people do that, but a lot of people have some kind of a side hustle. And they said about half of the younger generation, so Gen Z, millennials, about half of them have a side hustle. About 30% of everyone, but about half of them have a side hustle. So that's something more people are considering and doing. And 32% of people said they wanted to start a business within the next 6 to 12 months. And about half of Gen Z, which is the 16 to 25 age group, which we both have children in that age group, want to one day move, kind of start in corporate, but eventually move to some kind of a entrepreneur, business owner concept. It's like it's already in their minds that
Mhm.
this is kind of how they want to live their life. Like they start in one place, maybe learn, grow, and eventually go do something different. So I just think it's interesting how people have different concepts about work today, how dynamic work is. And one thing that seems to be consistent is we're all making a lot more pivots, right? So even if that's in how you do the current job you have, like I'm about to take a class on how to AI relates to coaching. Like even if it's in how you do what you're currently doing, this idea of being able to pivot, making pivots is just critical. So that's why I was excited to talk to you because I like to talk to people who've done it. I like people who have actually done it, and you have actually done it in multiple ways. And even what we were talking about, which we probably won't get to, but we probably should, about the way you're pivoting your Christmas with your children. Even that is just the way you live, being able to pivot to something different. So yeah, so thank you for joining and being willing to open up your brain and share your insights and ideas.
Absolutely. And I
Mm,
think the common denominator or the theme for me and everything you were saying is, especially with the younger generations,
mhm,
I think people are determined to live a life fulfilled. Like, I
mhm,
think that people are in search of, how to explore the many gifts that are given to us by God, right? And so
mhm.
I always say, I'm too many things for any one thing to define me, or to,
Yeah,
and so I, we have to be able to pivot to explore the many things that are implanted in us, in
mm,
order to really be fulfilled. So I think that's what people are seeking. I think they are figuring out that, what, no one path, I don't have to be relegated to one path, right?
mhm,
I can literally explore the many things that bring me fulfillment, that bring me joy, that
yeah,
excite me, that maybe pique my curiosity. And
yeah,
so I think that's what you see people doing. I think you see people also wanting the autonomy to kind
mhm,
of, figure out what their day to day looks like, not
yeah,
the monotony of maybe what historically your career might have looked like, but just the autonomy to make it colorful, to make it fun.
yeah,
We want that in every part of our lives, right? And
mhm.
so I don't think people are sneaking off on vacation to have fun, right? They want to have
Right.
fun in real life. And I
Yeah.
think that's what you see on all these reality shows, and you see people really want to have fun in real life. And so because our careers define so much of who we are and they
Mhm.
take so much of our time, well, guess what? It was inevitable that we would evolve to a point where we want that too to be enjoyable. Like we
Yeah.
want that too to be reflective of the many facets of who we are. And so that's what I know for me, that's what I have always been determined to do. I have to be fulfilled. I was sharing with you that my name means happy. And
Mhm.
so my mama always said, girl, I could fuss at you and you're going to be smiling and figuring out how to be happy.
Yeah.
And so I know that's my drive. I am determined to live a life fulfilled. I realize that I'm many things. And
Mm,
so I can't be satisfied just doing any one thing. I think when you and I were talking in all our conversations, nothing that I've pivoted from or transitioned from has gone away. I still
mm,
know how to do it all. I
yeah.
still do it all, right? And so we'll get into it, but I'm still an accountant at heart. I'm still
Mm-hmm.
a finance girl. I can knock out an IRR or, ROI.
Yeah.
I'm still, practicing HR every day.
Mm-hmm.
I love real estate. It's my passion. It's what I talk about, and I can't stop talking about.
Yeah.
But those are all things that make me who I am. And so I think
Mm-hmm.
you see people taking all of who they are and
Mm-hmm.
saying, all right, this has to be reflected in the thing that I do 90% of the time, or the
Yeah.
things that I do, which is my career, my job.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I think that's why those statistics look the way they look, because
Mm-hmm.
people are truly, we're not separating your job from your life, right?
Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
think, in the past when we had, the industrial era, when we had, all these kind of different eras, I think people may have historically kind of had work and then life.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that's what we're seeing now. And so I think that's why people are really getting creative. They're being thoughtful about what it is they do with their lives, literally.
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. And I love this idea of having fun in real life. Like, not trying to relegate fun to vacation or when I'm off work for my 2 or 3 hours in the
Yes.
evening or what, but having fun in real
Weekends.
life. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
I'm enjoying my
You hear,
real life.
yeah,
That's
you hear
good.
people, we use these quotes, right? Enjoy every moment, be
Yeah.
present,
Mhm.
and that's, people are tired of saying it. They're ready to do it.
You're ready to do it. Yes. Yes. Okay. So, and you've done a lot of this, but just how do you introduce yourself to people? Like, what's important, do you think, for before we delve into kind of conversation stuff and the nuts and bolts, what's important for people to know about you? How would you introduce yourself?
That's a good one, Arlene. I think I would introduce myself by saying I'm a woman of faith. So a lot of what I do is faith over fear. I'm not afraid. Oh, stop. I had
Not
not noticed
intentional,
that.
but yes. Okay.
So unintentional, but so appropriate.
So
Yeah,
appropriate. Yes.
faith over fear.
Mhm.
I'm determined to really be progressive and not complacent.
Mhm.
I am forward progress focused.
Mhm.
Again, I'm determined to explore all my gifts. I'm determined to be happy. I don't want to separate my personal life from my professional life. You
Mhm.
and I talk about this. I get to have fun with what I do
Yeah.
with the people that I value the most.
Yeah.
When I'm on my properties, I'm with my children, I'm with my husband, I go to work with my family.
Yeah.
Like that is something that I would have never been able to explore had I not pivoted.
Mhm.
And when you do it, it's just, wow. It's
Yeah.
almost like going on vacation. You say, wow, what took me so long?
Mhm.
And so for me, like I said, resilient, determined, um, and ultimately living a life fulfilled.
Mhm. Mm. So, okay, so tell me this. Tell us about some of the pivots you've made in your life. I know about a lot of them, but so people understand, what are just some of the pivots you've made from a career perspective primarily, but anything else that you think you feel led to share?
Yeah. So, career wise, so I started off in accounting. My undergrad is in accounting. I did that for about 9 years.
Mhm.
And then I transitioned to finance. And a lot of people don't know, but finance is different from accounting.
Okay.
And so I'll just say, accounting is kind of backwards looking, and finance is more forward looking, right?
Hmm.
And so transitioned to finance. I was in finance for about almost 6 years. And then, as a part of my finance role, I was working heavily with HR, and I decided that I wanted to build culture, not spreadsheets. And that's nothing against spreadsheets. Everybody knows a spreadsheet will tell a story, and it is
Yes.
super useful. But yeah, anybody who knows me knows I don't meet a stranger.
Mhm.
And I love to just share and exchange information. And so I decided, you know what, I am going to pivot yet again
Mhm.
into human resources. And so I did. I went back, I got my master's with a concentration in HR. So I got an MBA with a concentration in HR and made that pivot.
Yeah.
All along the journey, my husband and I were very interested in entrepreneurship. It's something that I always dreamed of. And so we explored franchising, we explored, real estate acquisition, we explored building our own business from the ground up. And so what we ultimately moved forward with first was real estate. So we started to acquire real estate in 2019, late 2018. And here we are 30 doors later.
Yeah. Which is amazing, honestly, just to think about how quickly that has grown, like how quickly you went from, well, maybe this is something we want to do to 2018. What's this? 6 years later to have 30 doors. That's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely, God is so good. And
Mhm.
if you had to ask me how we got here, I couldn't tell. No, can
Yeah.
tell you logistically, right?
Yeah.
But when I tell you, we didn't just wake up and say, oh, we have hundreds of thousands to invest in 30 doors. We
Right.
didn't, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't just plain and black and white or,
Mhm.
in the bank account.
Mhm.
It truly was a faith walk. And literally at every level, and you heard some of the testimony, but when I tell you things happened that we
Mhm.
couldn't have predicted, we
Yeah.
couldn't have orchestrated. It just, again, when you start moving and
Mhm.
you allow your faith to lead you,
Yeah.
then, the blessings just pour out. And literally, if we can get to it, we will, but it's, we were blessed.
Mhm.
Our second house, um, she paid almost 12 months rent up front. So guess what we did? We bought our third house.
Invested it. Exactly. Right. Uh-huh.
And then Mississippi, one of the states we invest in, had a rental assistance program where usually government is bureaucratic. It
Mhm.
wasn't in this instance. We were getting as much as 18 months rent up front
Wow.
for certain tenants. And so guess what we did? We
Yeah.
reinvested. So sometimes you think that it has to go just so, right?
Mhm.
You have to make enough, or you have to save enough, or you have to, be smart enough, or you have to go down this certain educational path or route. And
Mhm.
the reality of it is, you don't know that to be a fact for you. That might
Yeah.
have been the way someone else had to do it. That may be what you read online, but that
Mhm.
doesn't have to be your story. You gotta write your story. And the only way you can do that is by faith in action, right? By moving.
Taking steps.
And
Mhm.
so, yeah.
Wow. So, okay. So you've made these pivots. You went from accounting to finance, and thank you for that explanation. I never could have given that, but now I kind of get it. Like looking back and looking forward, I'm like, okay, forecasting versus,
You got it. Debits and
taking account of
credits.
what you already made. Kind of okay, kind of got that. So accounting to finance, finance to HR, which is a pretty significant pivot. Like having been in HR, I talked to a lot of people who maybe wanted to get into HR or kind of wanted to make functional pivots that people find really challenging to make. So you're able to kind of change functions. I know you've worked across different industries,
Mhm.
and then starting the real estate business. Like, I mean, how did you know for yourself when it was time to make some of these changes? Like, what from accounting to finance or finance to HR, or, hey, maybe now we want to start the entrepreneurial. Was it consistent? Like, how do you know when it's time to make a pivot for yourself?
So I think that's a personal journey, right? I
Mhm.
think number one, no time is going to be a good time.
Mm,
So I don't think you look for the perfect opportunity, the perfect situation.
yeah.
I think for me, the opportunities really presented themselves in some instances. So obviously, my transition from, to your point, accounting to finance was a little bit smoother, right? Because
Mhm.
they are, even though one looks forward and one looks backwards, it's still pretty similar. And I
Okay.
got opportunities to work on things that, again, exposed me more to finance. And it happened to be one of the many gifts that God blessed me with. The
Mhm.
transition from HR, or from finance to HR, was truly um, not being afraid to take on different things. So,
Mm,
of course, I took on projects. Like, for instance, I took on a project to ultimately create a recognition program within the organization. Well, that sounds very HRE, right? Because like I just made up a word, HRE.
Yeah. I knew what you meant.
Yeah, everybody should get it.
Right.
But yeah, that sounds like an HR function, but it's very analytical. And
Mm-hmm.
so because you have to identify, key performance indicators, you have to rank people, so you have to have data to rank them. So I literally took on things that scared me. I didn't necessarily know what I was doing, but I was willing to try. I was willing to do it. And so that kind of created the bridge between finance and HR, because I was supporting things that were people driven, whether it was headcount analysis, whether it was, again, the ownership of this recognition program. These were things that, again, kind of created a bridge that ultimately allowed me to cross. And so now I find myself, because I'm willing to take on things that aren't overly familiar to me, but interest me, right? Now I find myself having a conversation with my CHRO saying, hey, what is this? Like, what are you doing? And then I'm able to make a comment and say, I want to build culture, not spreadsheets. And he was like, what do you mean? Say more, And
Yeah.
so I, again, was able to share that and articulate that, but I created, or, I was given an opportunity, and then I took it to really do something that was outside of the scope of maybe what I was used to doing, but it piqued my interest. It piqued my curiosity. So I think I would say in each instance, I knew it because I was willing to be exposed to it. I was willing to be maybe a little vulnerable in
Mm-hmm.
taking on things that maybe weren't completely in my wheelhouse,
Yeah.
but I was going to figure it out,
Right.
and we have that, most of us, we're successful in what we're doing, and we have that grit, we have that willingness to figure it out. And
Mm-hmm.
so if we just lean on that to kind of, help us navigate the things that maybe we're not completely an expert at yet, but
Mm-hmm.
we're curious about, or we're
Yeah.
intrigued about, or we're interested in, then it ultimately leads to us getting more comfortable with, familiar with, and then maybe
Mm-hmm.
pivoting to
Yeah.
that thing. Same thing with real estate. I didn't know everything about real estate. I knew enough to be dangerous, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, but literally, I started exploring. I started, looking at things constantly. Again, when you are passionate about something, and I think Pastor says this, he actually said this about our account. So if you want to know something about a person, look at the percentage of time they spend doing something, or look at their bank account and look at the percentage of what they spend their money
Mm-hmm.
on.
Yeah.
And so if you are passionate about your pivot, if you're passionate about your next move, well, then
Mm-hmm.
how much time do you spend on exploring that thing, on taking on opportunities or experiences or assignments that expose you to that thing? And so I think that's what I did, and
Mm-hmm.
probably not overly consciously, right? It's what I knew to do. It's what I knew. The only way for me to know about this is to start doing it. It's to start
Mm-hmm.
getting ingrained in it. It's to start talking to people who are doing it. And so that's, I think how I made the pivot, and the how I knew was when I was vulnerable enough to dive into certain things. And I said, oh, wow, I like this. Or, oh, wow, this actually turned out pretty good.
Yeah. Yes, after you try, I mean, and I like your boldness in going to the CHRO with your kind of, I want to build culture over spreadsheets. I think one, just how you frame something up to people can be compelling. You can kind of draw people in. Like when you said that, I'm like, oh, that's, that just is interesting. It's an interesting way of kind of framing the pivot and being bold enough to share it with someone who can then give you ideas or advice or help you. So many times we stay in our head about something we want to do, and don't share with people who can actually help us do it. But share it with the CHRO, like that's the head of HR. That's someone who could probably really help in assignments or ideas or, I don't know, all kinds of ways
Well,
probably.
right. And that wasn't something that I just walked up to him and said, right?
Yeah.
I had taken on a project that no one else, again, it was extra, right? So most
Hmm.
finance people, like, they're like, no,
Yeah.
I want to do that one, right?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I did. And we tell this day, that organization has this recognition program. It was the recognition program for the pulse of the business, the two biggest roles, or the two most impactful roles in the organization. And so that was a big deal. And it's something that, till this day, there are people I look on LinkedIn and, there are people with their Best in Tech or Top Gun award. And I'm like, wow, wow.
Yeah. Aw.
And so, yeah. And so I say that to say, I created that audience by being vulnerable, right? And
Mhm.
so I didn't just walk up to him one day. I worked on something that he got to see front
Yeah.
row. And then we then had that kind of, relationship
Mhm.
that he was like, so what are you doing? Like,
Right.
what's, got a little curious.
Yes.
And I'm like, I think I'm pivoting.
Right. Oh, I that's fantastic. You mentioned too exploring different things, and I know, like you mentioned, when your finance to HR pivot, education was a part of that, and I know you're a big learner. Like, how do you think about education in terms of the different pivots that you've made? Because I think some people, I hear some people talking about, and I don't know, even though I've invested a lot in school, practically thinking, I think sometimes people think, "Oh, maybe that helps you or maybe it doesn't."
Yeah.
Does going to school or education, does it really help in these pivots or not? And I'm never sure, I think because I went to school so early, like I just kind of went through school from undergrad. So I never really had to make this choice in the midst of it, like working a full-time job and parenting and, all these
Yeah.
things to decide, okay, do I want to go invest this time and money in education or not? So just, what do you think about that in terms of education or learning and how it enabled or didn't the pivots you want to make?
Yeah, I think it's different for different people. I
Hmm.
think for me, it was absolutely necessary.
Mm.
Um, I think it validated me for me.
Mm.
Honestly, I think you need to be confident in what you're doing and what you're going to take on. And
Mhm.
so I absolutely felt I needed to know what I didn't know. And I didn't know what
Mhm.
I didn't know because I'd never
Yeah.
done, I think there's certain things that are intuitive. And I think for me, there were a lot of things in all of what I've done, whether it be accounting, finance, HR, real estate. There's a lot of intuition there, right? There's a lot of natural gifting that you and I will be talking. I'm like, I don't even know how I know that, but I know it.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
So some of that is just naturally kind of when you can glean something because you just get it. So
Hmm.
yeah, there's that natural intuition, but I also think there's that formal training because you never want to be, I don't want to be reckless with my
Yeah.
transitions, right? Because, again, we all have a certain expectation when we transition. And I'll be honest, for me, by the time I was transitioning in accounting, I had a healthy salary. I had a nice role and title. And so I wanted to transition kind of lateral in the least. Well,
Right.
guess what? I couldn't have that expectation without having the knowledge. And
Mhm.
so I felt compelled, like when I transitioned definitely to HR, some people do. Like you'll meet a lot of HR people who have a general business background or something actually not specifically HR.
Mhm.
I wanted to learn HR because I wanted to be responsible enough to be knowledgeable about
Mhm.
this role that I was going to assume because I valued it. I valued my
Mhm.
impactfulness. I valued my ability to come and add value, to
Mhm.
the people I serve, to the organization I serve. And
Yeah.
so I didn't take that lightly. And I'm not saying that that has to mean that you go and get a master's degree, but you
Mhm.
definitely get a certification. So I became a SHRM SCP, right?
Mhm.
And so I went and got certifications. I wanted to get the degree, whatever that looks like for you,
Mhm.
whether it's, additional just continued education or additional certifications or a degree. I do think, obviously, with every role we play, there's a level of expertise, a level of expectation that you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And so the same with, real estate. I didn't actually go and get a degree, but guess what? I became a realtor. I wanted to
Yeah.
be around it. And that
Mhm.
took some coursework. So
Mhm.
I wanted to get ingrained in it because the last thing I want to be, and I think we're all uncomfortable with these, when you're new at a job, you're ready to learn, like you're ready to
Yeah.
just know. You don't want to have to go to somebody to ask them where the copy paper is and being,
Uh-huh.
you don't
Yeah.
want to have to, figure it out kind of on somebody else's time and
Mhm.
training. You can't wait until you know for yourself because you want to be able to add value all on your own. And
Yeah.
so that's how I felt. And so my approach to transition is that I do get some kind of learning and education, whether it's a book, whether it's, again, a degree, whether it's a certification, whatever it is, you definitely want to take it seriously enough to know about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can see the confidence that could add, like that could definitely change how you show up. And
Yeah.
I think to your point about what you demand, because one thing I hadn't thought about, but as you made your transitions, like you really didn't take a big step back. And a
Not
lot of
with
people
God,
think,
too.
listen, and I think part of that is having the confidence to know what value you can bring, because a lot of people, when they change functions or make a big change, they kind of feel like, oh, I'm going to have to go back, to come back up from a just pay standpoint or title or whatever. And you really did. I was like, oh, wait, you made this transition. You really didn't have to do that. And probably part of that is the education, the confidence, the, feeling like, yeah, I can come in day one and add some value here. So no, I'm not even going to position myself for something, way more junior.
You
So
said it. You said it.
yeah,
And look, I can't take credit for that, but
yeah,
because again, that was nothing but a blessing. But you're right. That was my expectation.
yeah.
That was my, that was why I moved the way I moved, right? Because
Hmm.
I wanted to. And the biggest, like you said, kind of leap was the HR to, I'm sorry, the finance to HR.
Hmm.
I kind of was like, maybe I'll have to go, maybe I'll have to be a generalist first. But again, I said, you know what? As soon as I finished my MBA with that concentration in HR, I went and got my SHRM SCP. And so I was literally like, I don't want to have
Yeah.
to. I don't want to have to do that. And so,
Yes.
and again, the rapport that I had created with my
Hmm.
CHRO and just the timing of things, there was a
Hmm.
leadership position in HR
Hmm.
that was kind of coming along right when I was pivoting.
Yeah.
Again, that's the faith over fear, right?
Hmm.
That's the again, my second house, I get a lump sum of money and go, you can't know that. You can't,
Yeah.
but you also can't stall trying to figure that out. You just have
Yeah.
to do it. And then again, the blessing meets you there. When you're ready,
Hmm.
it'll meet
Yeah.
you there. So like you just gotta get ready. Just keep getting,
Yeah.
you know? Um,
Um,
yeah.
that reminds me of something I have on my board. Actually, you can't see it, but I have a board over here that has different quotes or just things I'm focused on. And we both know one of the elders at our church, Aaron Tolliver. One time he said, "You have to run the go route," which I'm not a big sports person, but what he meant is run towards the ball. And
Yeah.
when you need it, God's gonna give you the ball. Like
That's
you're
it.
gonna have what you need, but
Oh, we.
you can't be stopped. You have to be running, running the go route,
You
like
got to
on
run the
your
route.
path, do what you're supposed to
Yes,
do. So,
yes. Because if the
yeah,
go route says you got to go right and you go left, or you're 5 yards behind, you're
right.
not gonna meet the ball.
Exactly.
The ball gonna be there. You're not. And
That's what he
so
said. That's what he was saying. We're standing still, you're supposed to be running the go route, waiting for it to come. And
yeah,
when you talk about your journey, that's a lot of what you've done. Like you're continuing to make the steps and moving. And then God might meet you with an unexpected blessing that helps you accelerate or get further, but you've still been running your go route. Like you've still
yeah.
been kind of taking steps toward what you want.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
again, 5 years later, going back to real estate, you have been on this journey with me.
Yeah.
We were just trying to buy the first house.
Right. Yeah.
And when we
Hmm.
bought the first house, we were just trying to, like, oh, this is going great. Let's buy the second.
Yeah.
And at the fifth, but I didn't see the purchase of a commercial community. I
Right.
didn't see, I mean, and even till this day, God has to kind of stop me and say, you see what I did? Look,
Right.
he's like, you see what I did for you? Because
Right.
I I couldn't have fathomed it.
Yeah.
It takes other people to say, girl, you're a developer, for me to
Yeah.
be like, oh,
Yeah.
we did do some development.
Right.
And so, like you said, it's running the go route. It is
Mhm.
running the go route. God is doing everything else. He
Mhm.
is orchestrating the extreme supreme blessing. You're
Right.
being obedient just to
Yeah.
whatever it is that's calling you, that's
Mhm.
drawing you, that's pulling you. And if it's pulling you, then listen, do yourself that favor, give yourself that permission to
Yeah.
just explore it, and wholeheartedly, though,
Yeah.
not Oh, I'm on sometimes, I'm off other times, I'm
Yeah.
encouraged sometimes, I'm discouraged. And look, it happens. Don't get me wrong, emotions are real, but they can't dictate how you act. If they
Mm.
do, then you will be on a roller coaster, and 20 years later, you'll be like, I should have done that.
I really wish I had done that. Yes. I really wish I had done that. Oh my gosh. Wow.
But emotion can't be how how
Mhm.
you move. It can't be the
Yeah.
basis, because that is going to be all over the place. You are going to be scared sometimes, you are going to be discouraged sometimes,
Yeah.
and then you're going to be encouraged and excited and hopeful. But
Mhm.
if those ebbs and flows kind of dictate how you ebb and flow,
Yeah.
well, you know,
Well,
might like it,
well,
might not happen.
right.
You probably gonna miss
Well,
the route.
yeah, you probably gonna miss the exactly. If you're running and stopping and running and
Yes,
stopping, you
yes.
probably gonna miss the
You
ball
gonna miss the
sometime.
route. Yeah. If you're going based
Yeah.
upon you tired or not tired, because again, you talked about, the fact that you didn't necessarily experience the working while you were raising your family, or while
Mhm.
I'm sorry, going to school while
Uh-huh.
you were raising your family, and working.
Mhm.
I've done all of that, right?
Mhm.
I have worked, raising a family, running a business, going to school. And I joke, I'm like, wow, most people do one of these four things. Like,
Yes.
most
Uh-huh.
people either have a job, or they're in school, or
Yeah.
they're running a business,
Yeah.
it's like, no, no.
Right.
I've done all of them at the same time. And
Mhm.
I don't look again, I don't know how. I didn't contemplate it. I just did
Yeah.
it.
You
That's
just
it.
did it.
And
Yeah.
so, but if you're thinking again, it's like Jesus parting the Red Sea. When they started
Yeah.
thinking about it,
Yeah.
well, then it's like,
Uh-huh.
whoa, what's happening?
Mhm.
Or walking on water. It's like, what happened? Wait. If you start thinking about it,
Mhm.
then that's when you start sinking. But if you
Mhm.
would just act on faith,
Yeah.
then you find yourself across the river
Wow.
or the sea.
So let me ask you this. So what's most challenging? What has been most challenging about the pivots you've made? Like what made it hard, or what was hardest to get through, or what made it difficult, do you think? What were challenges you had to overcome?
I think one of the hardest things is realizing that you never arrive.
Mhm.
Like I know I thought, like when I finished college, I thought, oh, I'm done. I'm
Yes.
done. So like
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought that, right?
Yeah.
Because it was just the beginning, like it was the end of college, but the beginning of my career. Right.
Mhm.
And so I guess with each pivot, sometimes you think, oh, I'll arrive somewhere. Oh,
Mhm.
I'll just, and the reality of it is no, you'll be driven to the next thing.
Yeah.
You'll be, and that's not greed, right? That
Mhm.
is aspiration, that's inspiration, that's purpose,
Mhm.
right? That's passion,
Yeah.
that's compassion, that's philanthropy. That's
Mhm.
all those things that drive you to the next thing.
Mhm.
So it's I haven't been able to take a deep breath. I
Mhm.
haven't been able to, and again, you and I talk about this all the time. Sometimes it's healthy to take some breaks, right?
Mhm.
But ultimately, you're on a path, a journey. And you and I talk about the fact that truly, when you figure out how to enjoy life,
Mhm.
it's like a vacation where your pivots are just excursions that expose you to more, right? It's
Mhm.
not like, so when you're not in a rush to a destination, you don't mind the pivots, you don't
Mhm.
mind the explorations that give you the ability to see different things and do different things and learn things about yourself and other people, and give inspiration and examples to, maybe whether it be your children or your peers, or like, that's what your pivots are. They're excursions when you're enjoying your journey, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. And so
Mhm.
I've learned that there is no destination. Like, I don't have a finish line. And for a second, that intimidated me. It bothered me, because I'm like, well, is it me? Do I just keep moving the finish line? Is that unhealthy? Like, what
All
is
right.
going on? But the reality of it is, no, there isn't a finish line. A finish line is when you're no longer here. And
Mhm.
nobody's in a rush for that, I don't think. And so
Yeah.
I'm not. And
I'm not either. I'm not either. Yes.
and so no, I have to stop looking for a finish line, and
Mhm.
realize that it's a journey, and it's one that I get to author with God, with my loved ones. And I have to enjoy that journey. I have to keep working on the things that make that journey exciting and,
Mm-hmm.
fun in real
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I think I definitely, for a while, my finish line was absolutely retirement. Like I thought, oh, I had an age in my mind. And it was like, when I get there, woo,
I want to be done. I want to be
that is
coasting.
gonna be it. And I really thought that for probably decades. I mean, like when I first started working early on, my
Yeah,
parents were able to retire at a relatively young age. And so that was
the
my goal.
goal.
So we saved toward that. Like we, put a lot of our financial resources to it. But it's so interesting, like since I pivoted to my own business, I think just how life has changed for people. Like I don't even think about the same anymore. It's like
Mhm.
it's more like what's the next phase of life? It's not
Yeah.
like I don't even see a date where it's like, today I retire. It's like, what are you retiring from your life? Like, what are you retiring
Yes.
from? Not that you can't, to your point, like you may have to do things differently or spend more time here or there, but that was my finish line for a long time. And had
Absolutely.
you asked me 20 years ago, that would have been it. I'd be like, oh no,
Mhm.
there's a finish line.
Retire. Yes.
Let me tell you what mine is. But
Look, so you
maturity in life has showed me that
know,
really isn't in.
and your dream of retirement was so you could start living whenever that
Exactly.
is, right?
Whatever that was, right.
Yeah.
That was
And
it.
so, yeah, so that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. People are tired of having
Yeah.
this duality, this
Yeah.
dual life where it's like I work and I live.
Mhm.
No, I want that to be two that I want those to be the same thing. And so
Yeah.
what does that look like? So that is again where you see people with the side hustles
Mhm.
and again we all have the same, I think, vision. So don't get me wrong. I think probably most young people start off with, oh, let me do all these things, the career, the side hustle, to rush me towards right retirement, the end goal.
Yes.
But I
Uh-huh.
think along the way, we figure out that it's probably not quite. It's a little bit of a mixture of that, but it's not like retirement isn't this place where I stop.
Right.
So
Exactly. I think
yeah,
I was just tired. I think I was sleepy. So
yeah,
in my mind, I was like, oh, when I retire, I can sleep as much as I want to. I was really living life in an extreme
everybody.
way in a lot of ways. And so I just thought, oh God, I can't wait to sleep. But it's like, you actually could sleep this weekend if you want to. You
Right.
don't have to wait till you turn whatever
Well,
age.
but you
But
dream of like not that intermittent sleep, not like the Saturday and then I gotta hit it again. You dream of the just how I want it. Like
right. That level of rest. But I literally that was for decades. And now I'm like, wow, that really has changed. To your point, as you mature, as you do different things, like there's always something else. You may not see it,
right.
but there is something else. Like
Something else.
it's something else.
And it's okay though.
Mhm.
When you feel more in control of your something else, when
Yeah.
you play an active role in what your something else looks like, as
Yeah.
opposed to it just kind of appearing and then you accept it,
Yeah.
it feels different. And
That's
so
true.
again, I think that's why you're seeing more people creating. Again, you talked about the fact that there are more careers or more
Mhm.
titles that didn't exist.
Yeah.
People are creating, right? They're saying,
Mhm.
I want to be this. Or I think,
Yeah.
I think I'm going to be an influencer. That makes me
Mhm.
happy. Or like whatever that thing is. And they are dreaming it up. And so I
Mhm.
think it's to your point, it's a boldness
Mhm.
that people have. And it's probably also, look, we are especially in the US, right? We are consumers. We want it our way. And so
Yeah.
I think, that plays a role in it too,
Mhm.
right? People are
Yes.
tired of just kind of settling or just kind of,
Mhm.
oh, the old 9 to 5. I don't think that was attractive to our kids. I don't
Yeah.
think our complaining, coming home tired, our
Uh-huh. Yep.
think they aspire to duplicate that. And so they're like, all right, I know that's not it. So like
I said that. I was like, "Oh, we messed him up. We worked so hard. We were so focused on some of this." I mean, we were so overly focused. I think that our kids
not
watching some were
scared
like,
of
"Okay, tell you what I don't want to do.
I don't want it.
What you're doing. That's what I'm
But
not
it's
gonna do."
okay to work some though. Like,
Right, exactly. Yes,
You don't have to be the
absolutely.
polar opposite.
Right.
Healthy to
Yes.
have some aspirations.
Hopefully, all of our babies, hopefully.
Absolutely.
Um, so let me ask you this. How have other people played into your pivots or your decisions? Like, I talked to some people who other people were really helpful, inspired them along the journey. I've talked to other people where other people were inhibitors almost or barriers or, um, so how just have other people played into your pivoting process?
Yeah, so many people have blessed me in my pivoting processes.
Mhm.
I mean, again, I told you, I had a CHRO that was like, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
I've been surrounded with people like you who've made pivots, who I've just been inspired by. My husband, amazing, Kevin Cox.
Yeah.
He is my biggest cheerleader. That man
Mhm.
thinks I'm so smart.
He's right.
I'm like, look, I'm glad I got y'all food. But he does. He just, yeah, he encourages me. He trusts me so much. Sometimes I'm scared because, of course, we got to talk about. Look, we say faith over fear, but fear does exist, right? Because
Mhm.
you want to do what's in the best interest of your family. You don't want to fall flat. Although we say, oh, it's not how you fall, it's how you get up, and those things are real. But falling hurts.
Yeah.
Let's acknowledge.
Let's
Um,
avoid it when we can.
yeah,
Right.
let's avoid it when we can. And so yeah, his trust in me, his faith in me, that has been huge. My parents, my church, we'll have, inspiring sermons on just
Mhm.
do it, start that
Mhm.
business, go back to
Yeah.
school, those things. And truly, I guess because I'm such a person of action, I am allergic. When I tell you allergic to saying the same thing too many times, when
Yeah.
I hear those things, I take them to heart. Like I'm not
Mhm.
sitting there whether it's in a service, whether it's having a conversation with you, whether it's if we talking about it, it's important to me. And
Mhm.
we're just not about to have the same conversation too many times. We're just I don't know how to be any other way. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I take to heart the people around me that are saying, even when, again, we're going through yet another transition. We won't talk about this one as much, but even in psychology, when you said, I so see that in you, I was
Mhm.
like, it's
Yeah.
inspiration. I was inspired. And so those words, those, votes of confidence, those, um, yeah, just real, faith in
Mhm.
my ability, that goes a long way for me. And so I've had everybody, honestly, in my circle, whether it be my professional circle or my personal circle, has really just encouraged me and said, "Oh, yeah, I see you doing that, no doubt." Like,
Mm.
no, not. And so that confidence in me was probably as valuable as the confidence in my own self.
Yeah.
Because I can't let y'all down. I'm also a people pleaser.
Yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
so I really it's been beyond impactful. I think your circle is so important, right? And so definitely for me, my circle has been so key. My
Mhm.
children have been key. They're amazing, so they make it super easy for me to do these transitions because they're out there killing it like rock stars, so I don't have
Yeah.
to be, mama hawk over them.
Mhm.
And even they are like, I told Christian this morning about the podcast. He said, Mom, that's really awesome.
Aw, that brings tears to my eyes. He's so
Yeah,
encouraging. You have the
girl,
sweetest kids. Oh my God.
they all are. And
You have the
so, yeah,
sweetest kids.
yeah. And so just everybody, it's just
Yeah.
been such a blessing. And I always say, even when, I might have felt like I was maybe in a bit of turmoil professionally,
Yeah.
personally, I was always in an amazing place. And
Yeah.
that just means so much. You're gonna
Yeah.
make me cry.
I'm just I literally am about to cry. Let me wave my
Don't
tears
do it,
away before
Arlene.
my
Don't do it,
mascara
because
runs down.
I did not.
No, but you know what? I was thinking about this and kind of what you started with too around your name being happy and you have this real positive energy which I think probably helps in cultivating a positive circle because
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like you give off inspiration. You are encouraging. Like, the Bible says we reap what we sow.
Hmm.
Like you sow encouragement, positivity, inspiration to people. And so I could see how that comes back to you. And
That's
I'm wondering
good.
about people that don't have that in their circle. And I think about just different times in my life. I've had it more than others. Like, how do you think you've cultivated this circle of positivity, of
Wow.
encouragement, of people around you that that kind of give you that and you can give it back to them? Because I'm guessing there are people who don't have that. And I can think of different periods of my life when I felt like I don't know if I had that. Um,
Wow.
but what do you think? Like,
That's
what do you
good.
think someone could do if someone's like, I need that. I need this, like, I need this amazing circle.
Wow. That's so good, Arlene. And you gave me more credit than I would ever give myself for cultivating that. Because I just think it's, again, it's a blessing from God. But what I would say to answer that is check your perspective.
Mm,
And so I think, again, right, what did they say? Birds of a feather flock together.
yeah.
Or a tree by its fruit, the fruit
Yeah.
it bears. And so I think you gotta, again, there's only so much you can control. And
Yeah.
so the thing that you can control most is how you show up,
Yeah.
your perspective of yourself, how your self-talk.
Hmm.
Like, what are you telling yourself? And then ultimately that's kind of, I think, what exudes, right?
Hmm.
I don't think you can't hide yourself from yourself for sure, right?
I know I've tried. It doesn't work for long. It doesn't work for long.
Right. I'm sure we're all guilty. But
Yeah.
you know
Hmm.
how you show up. You know your default
Hmm.
personality, your default response, your default demeanor, your default approach to things. And if it's one of negativity, oh, surely I can't do that. Or, oh yeah, I just got to keep doing this because I don't know. I mean, I can't do nothing else. Or, if your self-talk is that, then that's probably what you are imparting to your loved ones, to your peers. Again, if you go
Hmm.
to work and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Something else to do? Or are you taking on, right, the best in tech reward recognition program and saying, oh, I'll do it. I mean, like, I
Hmm.
don't, what, how are you showing up? Um, and I think that's work on yourself. Yeah, I think we're always working on ourselves, right? And you and I, boy, you challenge me, boy, you stretch me. You know that. Our coffee dates, we always working on ourselves,
Yeah,
right?
always.
We
It's always,
are.
I'll text you and be like, hey, this is something I need to work on. Like, this is something I want to talk about next time.
Yes.
So,
And
yes.
that's what it is, right?
Hmm.
It's challenging yourself. We challenge ourselves to volunteer more, to
Yeah.
be, a resource in our communities, to it just so challenge it, work on yourself. Like,
Hmm.
it's so you got to, right? And we
Yeah.
also, I think for me, I also never want to be hypocritical. I'm always telling my kids, I say stuff like, if you're not going to show up 100, don't show up at all. Or if you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying, do your best in everything you do. All
Yeah.
these things that you tell your children and other
Hmm.
people as encouragement, feed it to yourself too, right? And are
Hmm.
you showing up 100?
Yeah.
And are
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Are you doing your very best? Are you
Yeah.
challenging yourself? Like, I
Hmm.
truly do. Like, I'm self and I'm insightful enough and I'm reflective enough to say, am I? And when I might not be giving myself the right answer, I say, Arlene, so this is what's this is what's challenging me. And you say, now, girl,
Oh my gosh.
we hold each other
Yes.
accountable.
Yes.
And so
Hmm.
I think that's how you get it. You give it to
Hmm.
yourself first.
Yeah.
And then you find people that are willing to give it to you and are on the same journey.
Yeah.
You attract that. But I think, like I said, for those, to
Hmm.
your point, who may not have it, then first acknowledge that. Like, when you
Hmm.
don't.
Yeah.
And the fact that if you're desiring something different, well, now you're kind of conscious of that. I don't have what I want, so why? And
Yeah.
then as you start to explore the why, then you have to be willing to do the work. Now that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
A lot of us may not truly be willing to do the work, and you have
Hmm.
to. There's no
Yeah.
way around it. Pick your heart.
No way around it. Okay, thank you for sharing that. Very helpful. I loved this whole conversation. I want to give you a chance to just offer one last piece of advice to someone, and then I want to do the lightning round too, and ask you what you're up to today. The pivot you're up to today, because I know you're up to another one as well that people might be interested in. But if you were to give one piece of advice to someone, or whatever's top of mind for you right now around someone who's considering a pivot, or maybe is in the process, what would be your kind of closing thought on it for somebody?
Well, I'm gonna repeat it, and it's on your shirt. Faith over fear.
Hmm.
Don't wait. Yes,
Yeah.
so appropriate. Don't wait.
Mhm.
Don't be afraid. Don't overthink it. I think the older we get, we can really overthink things. And, that leads to us giving ourselves all the reasons why it can't work, all the reasons why we're too busy, all the accolades and credentials that we don't have. Don't do that. Don't do that. Focus as much on your transition, literally the steps of transition are more on the steps of transition than you do on the reasons why you can't. So definitely, and really, again, meditate and ponder on the things you want, not the things you don't want, right? And so when you're focused, what you focus on is what you manifest.
Yeah.
And so if you focus on what you want, then that's what you'll get.
Mm. That was good. That was so good. So good. I cannot wait to hear the stories from people who take these lessons to heart, focus on what they want, and start taking steps in faith toward that, and what God's going to do with that, because
Mhm.
he's faithful. He's
Yes.
consistent. So
Yes.
he's
We got to
faithful and
be.
consistent. Yeah, so we
Yes,
have to be
we
the
have to
same.
be. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so tell us what you're up to today and what people might want to know about
Oh,
what you're up to today. Yeah.
sure. So, property management. So, as we discussed, I have 30 doors, and I've been doing my own property management, because why not add something else to pivot, right?
Why not?
Like, who gets a property management company when I can just do it myself?
Right. Uh-huh.
And so I have successfully been a property manager for the last 6 years since I started investing. And along the way, I've learned so much. I've been exposed to so much, and really been able to successfully manage my own properties, and also really be able to help other people more from a consulting perspective so
Yeah.
far. So at this point, we're looking to grow the property management business. And so, definitely, anybody out there who needs some property management, or even just some situational advice. So, if you don't feel like you need a property management manager, but you're maybe needing to orchestrate an eviction. Well, that's something that I could definitely help and educate on. Or maybe you feel comfortable, managing your property on a day to day, but when you have vacancies, you need some help with, marketing, getting people in there, or maybe
Mhm.
how to do background checks, or how to verify income, or just what to do to make sure you're
Mhm.
getting a good tenant.
Yeah.
Those are things that I can definitely help with, are the full gamut of things, which is full property management. So that's where we are now,
Mhm.
growing. And actually, my property management company it's kind of interesting. We were looking for a name, and so we knew we wanted, something that represented us. So it's GBG Effect, and GBG stands for Guided by God, and
Mm.
Effect is our initial. So A is for Asia, F is for Felicia, and then the E is random, the C is for Christian, and KK for Kevin and Kevin.
Oh my gosh.
So
Oh,
guided by God effect. So that's the effect we want to have. It's the guided by God. It's the one
oh,
guided by
that
God.
is awesome. Yes, and listen, you're not gonna find a better property management. I mean, like both the way you interact with people, very personable, kind, empathetic, and your knowledge of property and the numbers. Like, I still remember a couple times, like I've brought you, I'm like, I'm thinking about this as an idea, and you're like, okay, like let me get my paper and pencil out. Like, how much is that? And have you thought about the insurance? And do you know about? I mean, and I was like, yeah, that's actually a bad idea. So it kept me out of trouble as well. So I think you're kind of that you have both of those sides. You have the personable interaction, caring, kind, empathetic, integrity, and just the nuts and bolts of real estate and the financials. Yeah, that's awesome. You are going to
Thank
offer that
you.
to other people.
Thank you.
That will be another blessing. We'll have to be talking about your property management business in a few years and how
Yes.
that's going. Awesome.
Now available. You deserve to love your job. How to find your purpose and enjoy your life. You may not have learned this growing up, but you deserve to love your job. You will spend more time at work than in any other activity in your life, and you deserve to love it. Research tells us that people who love their work are twice as likely to enjoy their life. This book will help you create a blueprint to help you fulfill your purpose, love your job, and live the life you were designed to live. Now available at Amazon.
Okay, well, thank you again for joining. I want to do a lightning round at the end so people can just get to know a couple of things about you personally and
All right.
before we close. So these just think 30 seconds or less, whatever's top of mind for you.
Okay.
Okay. First question. What is one thing you do consistently to enjoy your life, your real life?
My real life.
Yeah.
That's all parts of my life now.
Yeah.
I spend time with those I love and care about, doing things that I love and care about. Again, and in this season, our coffee dates. Like, wow, who would have thought that we could do that on a Wednesday or
Yes.
on Tuesday or whatever at 11 or 10 or 2?
Yeah.
So I do that. That is so important to me. We talked about, just as we were chatting, our family vacations, and they are not about the destination. They are about the experience. Vacation for me, I realized, was a time when me and those that I'm with, which are usually people that I care deeply about, we are able to just be. We do everything together. We laugh more than we laugh kind of in the day to day. If you think about it, nothing like when you're on vacation, you're just free. And so literally I learned something about the people I'm with that I didn't know every single time. And so it's a time that our last trip, we went to New York. We were in Central Park, myself and the 3 most important men in my life. They're definitely the 3 most important. I was thinking, wait, my dad is up there, but no, my husband and my 2 sons. We laughed, we explored, we just had a great time. And so, the things that I do is spend time with the people I love the most, creating experiences and moments.
Yes. Okay. What is one of your productivity hacks? What's something that just helps you be more effective or efficient?
I never stop. That's probably unhealthy.
Productivity hack is hard work. Listen, and there's nothing wrong with that. We don't talk about that enough these days, actually. Your productivity hack is hard work. You put in the work.
That part. I think, what's wrong with all these, let me buy my my video, is that they sell a shortcut, and there isn't one. There is not a shortcut. When you hear the video about real estate with no money down, come talk to me.
Yes, and it's big and real. I think real estate more than anything else. I feel like it's always some, to your point, shortcut that someone thinks they're going to build some massive empire, in today. Somehow by the end of
in 10 minutes with no effort. Right. And it's like, does that sound reasonable?
Right.
Because if it were true, everybody would do it. Yeah, clearly everybody hasn't done it. So no, it's truly, I don't stop. And guess what? That, to your point, that's okay, because that's not punishment for me at this point. It's not. Again, that's Tuesday coffee with Arlene. We're talking about stuff that we are implementing.
Yes. I told you I need another tax chat. So I can understand the strategies we're employing this year. So yeah.
Me too. But that's a part of it. So no, I don't stop.
Yeah.
That's the hack.
That's the hack. Listen, hard work is the hack. That is so true. Okay. And last one, what's one word of advice or word of wisdom, piece of advice you live by?
Oh, you're going to make me sum that up?
Okay, it doesn't have to be the one, just a one.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, obviously God first in everything. And you can fail at nothing. So if God is first in everything, you can fail at nothing.
Mm. Because
you're more than a conqueror. You're the head and not the tail.
okay.
You are victorious in him.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't fail. Again, will there be lessons learned? Like
yes.
that doesn't
Okay. Yes.
rainbows. Yeah. So that doesn't mean rainbows and sunshine,
Mm-hmm.
but it also doesn't mean failure and defeat either.
Yeah.
Right. And so I say this with all honesty, and Lord, hear me, not arrogance, but I've never failed.
Mm.
I don't feel like I failed.
Mm. Wow.
And that's the God's honest truth. I do not feel like I failed.
Yeah.
I pivoted.
Yeah.
We've
learned.
I've learned. We've learned. We've learned. We've pivoted. We've evolved, but not failed.
Yeah, I've gotten better. Mm-hmm.
I've gotten better.
Yeah.
And I probably have some things that maybe, again, you talk about those people who don't have those positive people around them. Yeah. They might say, oh, well, that was a failure. Mm-hmm. Like they might look at it and say, that was a failure.
Yeah.
I was a mother at 17. Some people might say, you failed. Mm-hmm. No, I didn't.
Wow.
No, I didn't. So it's about perspective. She's beautiful. You know her.
Yeah.
And I'm fine. There's no failure. There isn't. Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining Felicia Cox.
Thank you. Yes. Oh my, I don't think I've stopped smiling, Arlene. I just love you.
I love you.
Look, this is where I get emotional because sis, you are it. Aww. When I tell you and when I say your brilliance, the fact that you share it with us, with me, I don't take that for granted. Seriously, it means so much when and I know it means a lot to you, but when I text and I say, girl, you made my day, or you were what I needed, or, your encouragement, your groundbreaking work, your brilliance, your book I read and reread and highlighted, you are priceless. Aww. And I mean that. Seriously. So our next podcast. You're gonna make me
cry for real.
Look, our next podcast with no cameras. We'll be next week at the latest.
Yes, we have to reconnect. Oh, that's so sweet. All that, and I feel the same way about you. It's been God connected us, and I could not be more grateful. I could not be more grateful, and for you sharing everything with everyone. Yeah. Thank you. So thank you. I love you. I love your family. I love you for being here. And thank you all for joining us in our conversation. If you're not in the email group, we want you to be. We'll put a QR code after the video. And as always, you can find me on Instagram at Arlene_pace_green. We love you. We're rooting for you. Run the go route. And we can't wait to see what what blessing he's gonna provide for you on that route. Yes. So thank you all for joining, and be well.